Joining me now, Brandon Judd, National Border Patrol Council President. Brandon, always great to see you and get your perspective on the crisis at the border. I want to start with the numbers tonight. For the fiscal year of 2022, which ended in October, on average, 6,500 illegal migrants crossed a day. Those are the ones that we know about. And the expectation when Title 42 is lifted is that 14,000 will come across per day. That's more than 5 million per year. Your reaction to this and the administration having no plan to combat it?
First, you have to understand what that does to our resources. We just don't have the resources in the field right now to secure the border. We're only deploying about 35% of our resources to actually patrol the border right now. Once those numbers continue to go up, those resources come out of the field. At any given time, we can have as few as 10% of our resources in the field, but that's going to be a typical day once Title 42 goes away. Only 10% of our resources are going to be in the field patrolling the border. That's going to give the cartels complete control of the border. As of right now, they're controlling certain stretches of the border. But once Title 42 goes away and we pull all of our resources out of the field, they're going to have complete control of the border. And that's dangerous to the American people because that's how they're able to flood so many of the dangerous narcotics onto the streets of the United States. And that's why we've had so many overdose deaths in the last 2 years, just since this administration has been in office.
And we'll talk about the drugs in just one moment, because those stats that Bill Melugin gave us about the Clorox and the liquid meth coming into the country are just staggering. But first, I want to ask you your reaction to how the administration responds to questions about this. Peter Doocy was on Fox News earlier, and he was talking about how Karine Jean-Pierre answers the question of whether or not they approve of Title 42 being lifted by just saying it's a court order, we're following it, not saying, yes, we support it, no, we don't, or what their opinion is. And the second thing is, as Hillary pointed out, that they love to do is talk about the fact that the Republicans are not working with us on comprehensive immigration reform. Well, what comprehensive immigration reform have the Democrats proposed? Because this is their solution to leave the border essentially open.
So let's talk about Karine Jean-Pierre first. What she says behind the White House podium is just nothing but lies. The problem is the mainstream media doesn't fact check her. And if they don't fact check her, then her lies become the truth. And that's what the American people hear, and they're ultimately going to believe that. And that is a complete disservice to the American people. Secondly, when you look at the Democrats' rhetoric, they talk about they want a humane and orderly process. I was just on the Hill this last week and this week working with Senators Tillis and Sinema on a compromise that would give us border security as well as give a pathway to legalization to DACA. It was the Democrats that rejected it. It wasn't the Republicans. It was the Democrats that rejected that framework. And that's the problem. They just continue to lie, but nobody fact checks them on those lies.
Thank you for clearing that up. We showed the video last night of the police officer that had come in contact with fentanyl. She was revived with Narcan and thankfully is alive today. But having said that, we talk about this on the program all the time. The fentanyl that's coming from China crosses through the border illegally. And Bill Melugin talking about that liquid meth street value, $100 million. You think about the money that the cartels are making off of this as our country is bleeding money to try to pay for it all.
And it all starts with illegal immigration. The cartels know that all they have to do is flood our resources, pull us out of the streets, and that's how they get their products across the border. Everybody, you hear the Democrat talking points. Well, it's all coming between the ports of entry. That's not true. All you have to do is look at the era when we were in the shutdown. Those ports of entries were only dealing with about a third of the crossings at that time. Yet we had more product on the street than in the history of the United States. We had more overdose deaths than in the history of the United States. That clearly shows that the cartels are able to bring the products between the ports of entry illegally into the United States. And that is an issue. But again, they continue to lie, they continue to deflect, and that's all the American people hear.
Take a look at this headline on foxnews.com. 30,000 migrants, Brandon, now in New York City. Mayor Adams is asking President Biden for cash. This is according to a report. And Adams wants $1 billion. We've got tens of thousands of migrants that are living in tax-funded housing. He didn't want them here in the first place. And I knew that if they started coming, eventually he was going to start to ask the federal government for money to support them. But the irony here is the fact that he's fine to have them in Texas. He's fine if they stay in Arizona. But nope, he didn't want them here.
As much as it disgusts me when he talks, says anything because of the hypocrisy, I'm very happy that he's doing it, because he does become the voice piece of border security, because it causes everybody to look and say, well, what's the problem? What's going on? Why does he need this money? And it causes them to look at what's going on the border. And that's the only way we're going to get change. We can only get change if the American people are willing to push back against the politicians in their home states. If that happens, we can potentially get the change that is necessary to get the border secure and protect the American people. And that's what's important.
It is very important. Brandon Judd, thank you so much. If I don't talk to you again,
thank you,
happy
Jackie.
holidays, sir. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.